Time to pull up a chair and talk some Dynasty football. I am your host, JJ Wenner, and this is the Rider Dynasty podcast. Tonight, we bring you training camp battles, wide receiver edition. We will look at 8 muddled wide receiver rooms and help you invest your draft capital wisely. With me is my co-host, Dynasty Guru and podcast host for SGPN Fantasy, a true Dynasty dork, Dave Heilman. How are you doing, sir?
Doing fantastic. Ready to talk some receivers.
Woo, I am ready. Now, pulling up a chair for the first time on the Rod Pod, you may know him from the IDP Guys or from his work as a ranker for Fantasy Pros, or if you're like me, you know him from his great content on his Twitter handle at CaliKing49er17. Mase Riney, how is fatherhood treating you, Mase?
Yeah, I do look a little bit wiser, right? Probably a lot more tired.
A little bit.
It's good. I've actually found myself to be more busy now, just trying to find work in between, keeping myself going. Definitely hard and trying, but so worth it, man. Every moment is definitely special. It's a little girl too, so anything that happens, it's just still in your heart, you know. But I appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh, we're so happy to have you. I can tell you, my daughter we were on vacation. She's 26 and she got COVID. So I am like, it never ends. Just to let you know, 26 years from now, you're still going to be worried about your little kids.
Big old bowl of melted Jell-O,
huh? Absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to this conversation tonight with both of you. Before we begin, we are giving away an autographed DeAndre Swift Lions jersey. All you need to do is leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes. Once we hit 100 reviews, we are going to draw a winner. Look for a link in the show notes on either the podcast you're listening to or down in the YouTube description. And as always, please do all of your typical YouTube and podcast things like subscribe, follow, leave a comment. It helps us grow and provide you with the content you are looking for. Now, last episode, Andrew Erickson joined us to talk about which running backs to take from muddled backfields. Erickson also shared some great information about how to break into this industry. If you missed the episode, please check it out on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Tonight, though, we continue our training camp battle series, which looks at the most muddled team position groups. This week, focusing on wide receivers, teams where training camp and preseason is going to clarify who is going to get the opportunity to shine on your rosters. And I've been listening to a ton of music today, so listen for the lyrics. I'm going to drop a few. You know what it bees, cheesehead. Alicia Keys, I'm going Swiss cheese. Little Wayne knows that all is good with the 12 on your back. So let's kick it off with Green Bay. According to Fantasy Pros ECR, Aaron Rodgers is going to be the 12th best QB this season. Football Guys have him projected to throw for about 4,200 yards, 34 TDs. Fantasy Pros has Rodgers at a similar finish for this season. Well, that means somebody has to catch passes, right? Who is it going to be? First off the board is Allen Lazard, followed by Christian Watson, with the late rising Sammy Watkins coming in as the 3rd drafted wide receiver. Mase, how do you see this shaking out?
Well, I'll just start off by saying that Christian Watson was signed his rookie contract today. I believe it was a 4-year, pretty standard. And then they also brought in former Bills wide receiver John Brown for a workout today. So if that shows you anything about how confident they are, I don't know. You said Watkins on the rise. That kind of threw me off. Maybe week 1. So that's spicy. Anywhere you go here, it's just, I don't know. Lazard gets bumped up in his ADP because he's wide receiver 1, which, I mean, you look at the list, how could he not be? Amari Rodgers, I don't really know if he ever really had a chance. I don't remember. He was in the middle rounds last year. He was drafted, I believe. Dubes, he's going to have that rookie curve. And even then he was taken later as well. He might have the opportunity, but I'm not exactly sure because we know how Aaron Rodgers gets with wide receivers. So I'm actually looking more to like Aaron Jones or maybe the other running back Dylan to step up on some of the target share, or maybe just they just try to contain everything on the edges with the running game. Yeah, I don't know. Christian Watson is enticing as well for that streaking capability, but it really just depends on the LaFleur offense and what's going on and how it goes week to week.
Now, Dave, I mean, Sammy supposedly finally learned that he has to prepare his body in the offseason. Thanks for waiting until your 13th season for that, buddy. I don't know. We were talking about Watkins a little bit earlier. Where are you falling with this? Where are you throwing your chips?
I mean, I'm in the Scott Fish Bowl in a really deep league, and it's redraft. Yeah, I'll take a stab at Watkins, throw him on the bench, see what happens. If he doesn't at least do what his week 1 thing, then I know that it's not going to happen. I was going to take a stab at him with my 21st pick or something like that, but he got grabbed before that. At the end of the day, I think Mase hit it on the head. You really want to invest in the running backs more than you do the receivers. And Rodgers still could get it done. It just doesn't mean that Lazard is going to be good consistently. Watson's going to be good consistently. Rodgers could still throw 35 touchdowns. It could be just randomness. You could get Alan Lazard 2 touchdowns this week and then 3 duds. You can get Christian Watson 2 touchdowns this week, 3 duds. And so you just don't know. And then Robert Tonyan is, might not even start the season. He's not ready to go because he tore his ACL. So it's, do you go after Degora? I mean, it's just what are they doing out there? And, the worst part is they're probably just going to be fine. And that's they don't even get punished for not helping Aaron Rodgers out until January, when they get knocked out of the playoffs because they didn't do anything. There's still Will Fuller out there. There's still Cole Beasley out there. There's still Julio Jones. And apparently John Brown is potential. So they probably do add a veteran. And I think, with Will Fuller, he's probably waiting to see what happens with the Deshaun Watson situation. Watson gets a 4-game suspension. Maybe he goes to the Browns. Watson gets what we expect, and it's 8, 9, 10, or the whole year. You can quickly see his movement, and you could see him go to the Cowboys, the Colts, or the Packers.
Giving out a couple shout outs to some of these guys a little bit lower who are being drafted. Romeo Doubs did get an 81.7 grade last year at Nevada. So he has some promise, but man, I don't know what happened to Amari Rodgers. He appeared in all 16 games, yet only got 8 targets. Guys missed time last year. Lots of Green Bay receivers missed time, and they still never turned to the rookie. I know Rodgers doesn't necessarily throw to rookies all the time, mainly because he's always had a stud there when these rookies broke in. But the fact that they didn't even put Amari on the field is a little bit concerning to me. Anybody looking at the depth chart, gentlemen, that you're keeping an eye on? We have Juwan Winfrey, Dangerous Danny Davis, rookie Samari Torre. Anybody standing out to you?
Not there. Like what Dave was saying, if you're going to throw a late round dart on a tight end, maybe just because it's a muddled situation and no one's a part of it, then that's fine. Or if you want to take a late round dart throw on Sammy Watkins, because I don't really think anyone's chomping at the bit for that. But even with that, you got to take with 7 grains of salt, not just 1. So I'm not really. You can keep your eye on the depth chart all you want. Maybe there'll be some movers and shakers by week 3, week 4 if they sign a veteran or something. Will Fuller might be a little enticing, but he's kind of got that, not the Sammy Watkins effect, but where he'll hit you, 1 every 5 weeks, and the other 4 weeks you're cursing his name. So too sticky for your boy.
Yeah, this is going to be a frustrating receiver room. Well, I'm a sailor, Peg, and I've lost my leg. That's right. We're shipping up to Boston. Mac Jones had a solid season as a rookie, throwing for 3,800 yards and 22 TDs. Now, I think we can assume a moderate uptick in his stats, yet Fantasy Pros is only showing a modest increase of 2 TDs. First off the board in most drafts is Jacoby Myers, followed by Parker, Bourne, and then rookie Tyquan Thornton. Dave, how do you see this shaking out?
Yeah, probably like it is. I mean, you have Josh McDaniel leaving, so that throws a whole wrench into things. We don't know who exactly is going to be the play caller, so that makes it even more difficult. But we know the Patriots, and it's hard to be it's going to be this guy. They don't have a Julian Edelman type that you can, somewhat, consistently count on, and Jacoby Myers is in that slot role, but he doesn't score touchdowns. And so 5 for 50, even in your PPR weeks, it's not really going to get the job done. Bourne had a great year last year, underrated signing, and then they go bring in Devontae Parker. So I think they're going to probably, just cannibalize each other there, which is great for real football, but not for fantasy football.
Yeah, last season, 6 players had over 100 targets while scoring 3 or less TDs. We obviously know one is Jacoby Myers. Can you gentlemen, this is wide receivers, this is any position. Can you guys name any of the other guys?
Cole Kmet?
Not Kmet.
Kyle Pitts?
Kyle Pitts is one. Mike Gesicki, Laviska Shenault, Chase Claypool, and Cole Beasley are the other ones.
Kenny Galladay.
Now, what's interesting, though, is I don't even think he got 100 targets, though. That was the problem with Galladay. Out of all of these, Beasley still isn't on a team, but only Laviska is going lower than Jacoby Myers. I love Jacoby Myers this year. He was the go-to receiver there. Man, I have to think, Dave, that we're going to see some regression, right, on his TDs. They have to pop up to a normal level. Right? No?
I mean, we've been saying that about DJ Moore forever. Some guys like Jarvis Landry, it's just not in their game. So it could happen. I'm definitely not saying it can't. But it's just, like I said, it's like a Jarvis Landry situation. It's just the type of player they are. Like, they're very good in between the 20s, but they don't have that big playability. And they're just not utilized that much during the red zone. And so that's the problem here with Jacoby Myers. It's very similar. They use the tight ends and the running backs in the goal line. They don't throw the receivers a lot in New England. I don't know what the breakdown is, but that's the problem. It's just, he doesn't get a lot of targets in that 10 zone. All
right, Mase, I'm coming to you for some good feedback here. You're on the Jacoby Myers bandwagon, right?
100%. I actually took Mac Jones, I think in the 6th round of the Scott Fish Bowl. And then later on, I came back to swoop up Jacoby Myers after I took Tyler Lockett in like the 10th or 11th, something like that. In one of those middle rounds. But I'm hoping for that touchdown increase. I know Kendrick Bourne, I think, had 7 or 8 touchdowns last year. So I'm expecting him to kind of not drop off, but maybe fall down to 3 or 4. Maybe Hunter Henry has some regression as well. But I feel like in Mac 10, Mac Jones' second year, he's going to need that security blanket. And he has that stability with Henry, but maybe he'll branch out a little bit. I know everyone's kind of been chomping the bit since Harry was supposed to go there and do his thing to kill Harry. And now he just got traded. So it's kind of like turning the page, getting that monkey off their back. And hopefully Jacoby Myers can take hold of that position and hold it for a couple of years, because if he can, there's a lot of value in that depth of taking him, I feel like. Devontae Parker, I feel like, is a better complement than Nelson Aguilar was as well. So maybe that'll kind of help if Devontae Parker can stay healthy. Kendrick Bourne is just a dog, and he's like the heart and soul of the offense, I feel like. The unspoken leader in the locker room. At least that's what he was in San Francisco. So I like that. And then Thornton is a nice addition to just kind of streak up the field and keep the defense steady. So kind of tricky with Joe Judge being the offensive assistant. But at the same time, you can't really put the chips against Belichick and expect to win. So I feel like Jacoby Myers is definitely the go-to here out of everyone.
Dave, any thoughts on Mac Jones going into this year?
Yeah, so I want to just drop this stat. I saw this earlier from Nate Liss at an outraged Jew on Twitter. I don't care what you say. This statistic is insane. Joe Burrow, 520 passing attempts, 4,198 passing yards. Mac Jones, 521 passing attempts. One more passing attempt, 4,260 air yards. So Mac Jones, I think about almost 9 yards per attempt. He was more than Aaron Rodgers. He was airing it out. He wasn't just dinking dunking it. That does speak well. I think it speaks well for all of the pass catchers. I think Devontae Parker is a little sneaky. I do like Myers out of the group. I know I kind of besmirched him earlier. It's just, it's really hard to depend on that, But your 3 receiver formats, he's a solid wide receiver 3. It's just you really want some more upside and you just don't get it. And Devontae Parker's a good receiver. And he's had some pretty crappy quarterback play. And he's shown some signs of life. And I think him and Mac Jones will play well together.
Now, since we are a dynasty show, I always look at the depth chart. We have a couple names on here that we all should recognize. Nelson Aguilar, former Eagle, former Raider. Ty Montgomery, former Green Bay Packer.
Former running back.
Now going back to wide receiver full-time. Malcolm Perry, Trey Nixon, Matthew Slater, their special teams ace. But Lil Jordan Humphrey, one of my favorite names in the league before Divine Diablo came along. They just picked him up as a free agent. Any hopes for Lil Jordan? No.
Do you think him and Thornton have a camp battle back and forth for the 4th, 5th spot? Maybe something like that, because I feel like Slater, he makes it for special teams, you think?
I think Tyquan's going to take over, try to work on that special teams role.
Because Gunner left. I cannot say his last name. Yeah. Thank you, him. Yeah.
So Thornton's got the draft capital. You can't go and put Humphrey in over him with that.
And Slater's getting old. I know he's their star. He's probably one of the people's favorite Patriots. When I was just up in New England, I was talking with my brother-in-law about Slater and how much he loves him. But they're going to need somebody to take over that role soon as he gets older. So we'll see what happens. Well, I called up my friend Leroy on the phone and I said, buddy, I'm afraid to be alone because I got some weird ideas in my head about things to do in Denver when you're dead. Russell Wilson rolls into Denver with his golden arm. And for some reason, the love doesn't extend to his top wide receivers. Now, over the past 3 years, Tyler Lockett has averaged a wide receiver 12 finish. And DK Metcalf has averaged a wide receiver 17 finish. Yet, Sutton is going as the wide receiver 20 and Judy is at wide receiver 22. Mase, are we too low on these players?
I think what it comes down to is the players that are around them being drafted, like the other wide receivers. I don't know how close Cortland Sutton is to, like, say, a Keenan Allen or someone like that I would feel a lot more comfortable getting Keenan Allen because he has that reference with his quarterback and has for a while. So I think it comes down to that. Honestly, I think I've seen Jerry Jeudy being taken ahead more than Cortland Sutton. I like Cortland Sutton more personally. I feel like he's more well-rounded. He's just got more of the package than Jeudy. Judy's just more of that route runner. And for me right now, his catch percentage is a little bit too low. I know he has had the subpar quarterback play, but Denver believes in Sutton. They paid him, I believe, while he was injured or just after he came off injury. So, a lot of pizzazz on Tim Patrick's name right now, though. I have seen that. Haven't really dove into it a lot. So, I don't know. I just like Sutton, and then if I threw a late one, it would probably be Tim Patrick.
Yeah, it's interesting, Dave, looking at this ADP, right? Underdog, you see Sutton goes earlier, but in ESPN, it's Judy. So I don't know if that's based upon users and sleeper. Judy's going earlier. Do you have a preference between the two?
Sutton, we've seen it more, so that would be my preference. I think Mace hit it. It just comes down to the people that are around them. Just because we've got more confidence in them, and maybe we should have more confidence in these guys because of Russ. Maybe we haven't seen it from Judy and from Sutton consistently because of what they've been through. But Sutton, Sutton is not going to be your DK Metcalf. Those two guys are both tall receivers. That's about it. They're totally different types of receivers. DK Metcalf is way more athletic and a burner in comparison to Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton is 20 pounds heavier than the tight end, Albert Okwuegbunam. And
sure,
and Alberto's faster.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about like who's going to run that, like, that route that Tyler Lockett kills everybody with, it's not going to be Judy. It's not going to be Sutton. Is it going to be Tim Patrick? Is it going to be KJ Hamler? Like, who's going to be that guy that does that when Russ goes back on a deep play action and looks across the field. But yeah, those guys haven't separated themselves. So it's, you just got to guess and hope you get it right. But honestly, I don't think you can go wrong with these guys at their current ADP. And I'd be comfortable getting both in hopes that I hit the jackpot on one, or, I would not be surprised if both these guys are solid wide receiver 2s and one of them is a wide receiver 1, maybe.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I was listening to Football Guys podcast with Cecil Lammey. He's tied into Denver pretty tight. He does a radio show out there. He's talking up KJ Hamler well over Tim Patrick, and that they're actually scheming up plays for KJ Hamler and not Tim Patrick. So if it comes to the late part of your draft and you have to choose between those two, I think I'm going to throw a chip on KJ over Tim, but that's just me. It is Rider Dynasty. We talk about Dynasty. Let's look at this depth chart a little bit, Mase. We have Seth Williams out of, I think, Auburn last year. Kendall Hinton, the one-game QB. Travis Fulgham. There's a lot of names in here. Anybody stand out or that you're willing to take a shot on?
No, not really. If anything, I'm going to take a shot on the backup tight end just for targets. Maybe get Gordon, the running back. Otherwise, in Russell Wilson's career, it's been 1-2 wide receiver, and I think either Chris Carson or a tight end. Probably just because of scheme, and then with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, how could you not plug them for 120 and 140 targets? But I think that's just kind of the mystery that comes with this is, are we going to get Russ from 3 years ago? Are we going to get Russ from 7 years ago? Are we going to get Russ from last year that has had a problem finishing out seasons? Is he going to bring the people up with him? So kind of like Dave said, you just kind of not really roll the dice, but you take one of the two guys or you take both of them and kind of just see what happens. And the chips are going to fall where they are.
That sounds good to me. If I have a late chip, now I'm talking about deep rosters, like 30 plus just on the offensive side, deep dynasty leagues, I might throw a chip on Seth Williams. Didn't really perform, didn't play at all his rookie year. I think he appeared in one game. I'd be interested to see if he can regain any of the buzz he had entering his final year of college.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
And I just
go
ahead.
Didn't Fulgham do all right in Philly for the 7 games he was playing?
And then he disappeared. I don't trust Fulgham.
Yeah.
But, if he could put it together, I think it was more work ethic between the ears. I think he had a few good games and sort of all of a sudden thought he was a fantastic wide receiver.
Well, and the athletic profile, which wasn't there. There's a reason why he was undrafted. There's a reason why he went to a smaller school. It did well for a little while, but hopefully you sold him off like you did. I mean, I got a second for him, and I remember that in a couple, because I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna get rid of this guy. Got a bunch of Eagles fans in my league. Yeah, let's do it.
Well, that's part of knowing your league mates.
And I just want to throw some, Mase, he alluded to this earlier, and I just want to throw this back to that point. Thought it's really smart to think about this with these bottom rotation of rosters when you talk about these battles is special teams, because at the end of the day, they can only they're not going to just keep 8 receivers because they like 8 receivers. They have to cap each position room. You can't have 12 receivers and 4 linemen. So they have to get rid of receivers, even though they may be good receivers. But at the end of the day, if you're going to activate somebody as a receiver on game day, they might have to play special teams. And if you look at a guy like a KJ Hamler, he may return kicks and stuff like that, but he's not going down there. And, so that might be his, so these guys that get that 5th, 6th receiver role, that 4th running back, that could be the difference maker, even if they're not a better receiver or running back, because they played better on special teams.
Special teams is the key to making rosters for all of your mid-level talent. Show that you're willing to get your nose in there and make a hard tackle on a punt return. Gentlemen, I don't have any reasons. I've left them all behind. I'm in a New York state of mind. Now, the Giants have brought in Brian Dable. Fans are hoping that he can fix Daniel Jones and take the team's passing offense to the next level. However, there are a ton of questions at wide receiver. The only 3 receivers being drafted are Kadarius Toney, Kenny Galladay, and Wan'Dale Robinson. Dave, are you taking a shot on any of these guys at ADP?
You can. I was gonna try to get Kenny Galladay and Scott Fish just because he very much could end up the number 1, and he was getting drafted like wide receiver 62. The Giants, this is an interesting stat. In the last 4 seasons, they've had their number 1, 2, and 3 receiver with their number 1 tight end, quarterback, and running back all together for 2 quarters. So they just have not had any, like there's all together. They just haven't had anybody. Is that the reasoning they haven't had, success? No. I think the coaching staff had a lot to do with it, but it's just, you can't get any continuity here for Daniel Jones when he just doesn't have any of these receivers together. So hopefully they start off fresh with a healthy Saquon Barkley. But we know right off the bat, Sterling Shepard torn his Achilles, week 17 last year. He's most likely not going to play the first half of the season. And I think Sterling Shepard's he's on his way out of town. He took a pay cut with the Giants to stay there, but he's on his way out of town soon. Wan'Dale Robinson, Kadarius Toney, both those guys can play his role. Kenny Galladay is the outside guy. I think Kenny Galladay is most likely going to be the leader in targets when it comes down to it. He's definitely the leader in salary cap in that room. They are an expensive receiver room. They're the number 4th most expensive receiver room, and you're not getting what you paid for whatsoever. But I'll tell you this, Kadarius Toney, I had Michael F. Florio on the show, and he was just dropping stats about just, basically all the analytics say Kadarius Toney is he's either going to be an extreme fluke or he's going to hit, because the things that he's done historically, they end up, whether it's yards per route run and all these other sticky stats that are saying he's going to be good, as well as, having 180 yards as a rookie. That doesn't happen. Kadarius Toney looked good, not just against the Cowboys. He looked good. So I think, those 2 guys you can, because the ADP is so low.
Now, Mase, I know all the stats on Kadarius Toney are great. They show like a very electric young player. I'm worried about him being an idiot more than I am at all about what he can do on the field. Am I just an old guy who doesn't understand these young kids anymore? Or is there something to be worried about with Toney?
See, I wouldn't put myself in the old man category, but I am kind of worried about the mystery that comes with it, just because I don't know what is going on. And yeah, he might put up a good stat a week, but then the next 2 weeks, he might either be a dud or might not even play in the game. So I have no idea what is going on with that. Just looking at this wide receiver battle list that you put together that looks so amazing, this has just been the stinkiest page so far, because there are so many names that I've either been hurt by or I just refuse to get hurt by. Kenny Galladay probably twice. I feel like just because he's undersized, Robinson, I don't know. I'm kind of iffy on that. It's just the entire room, the amount of turnovers that Daniel Jones has. It's just everything about it is tough. I think in 2020, the tight end Evan Ingram was the only person over 100 targets. I don't even know if there was someone last year with over 100 targets. So it's crazy, like buttered popcorn in there, man.
Yeah, it's ugly. And you're right. You look down this wide receiver depth chart, because we are a Dynasty podcast, and you just see name after name who has disappointed, right? Sterling Shepard, check. Richie James, check. Darius Slayton. Ooh, I had a few shares of him. Check. Keelan Doss. I remember when he flashed for a game or two. Check. Robert Foster. Check. There are a lot of names of guys who flashed very briefly. So I think Kadarius Toney fits right into that mold. Hopefully he stays in that top chart and doesn't fall to the bottom. Is there anybody down there you're interested in, Dave?
As far as the depth chart, nobody. And as far as a long-term value, I don't see anything. We've seen Alex Bachman. He's a great practice squad guy. There's always training camp. You're going to see a whole lot of Alex Bachman buzz, and it just doesn't pan out. Same with David Sills. And then, Colin Johnson he played a lot last year, and that's not a good thing. Just people got hurt. And Darius Slayton will get the most snaps out of that bottom group. So if you're in a really deep league, Darius Slayton is someone you can get on there. Tony and Galladay have been hurt. Shepard's probably not going to play. Slayton's probably going to be a starter for them. But I wouldn't, he's not someone you're going to be putting in your roster anytime soon.
I like Richie James as well. Sorry, Richie James. He's a real big yak guy. I know Shanahan was trying to work him out on the Niners. He was there for a couple of years. So if he can kind of get connected, and if there are too many question marks here and people are in and out, Richie James could be a name to look for around like week 5 to 8, maybe.
All right, gentlemen. Last night I went to sleep in Detroit City, and I dreamed about the girl who's been waiting for oh so long. This offseason, Dan Campbell let the disappointing Anthony Lynn go. Campbell had assumed play calling after starting 0-8 and averaging under 17 points per game. Down the stretch, the team went 3-5-1 and averaged 21 points per game, a little bit over that. Now, replacing Lynn is first-time OC Ben Johnson, who was their tight end coach and should probably call a similar game to Dan Campbell. Now, do we think that Jared Goff can take another step towards relevance with a vastly improved offensive line and a healthier and more complete set of weapons? Mase, do any of these guys interest you at their ADP?
I would definitely take a flyer on DJ Chark. My brother is a part-time Jaguars fan because his son is, and he's always preaching about him. Urban Meyer came in and told him whether it was gain or lose 15 pounds. He did it regardless. Like, this guy's a grinder, and he's really good. He's very underrated, undervalued. It's just the cap of Jared Goff. I don't know. It's not very good. Like, you'd like them to take a step forward. Like, maybe if they can use Swift in a way that where Todd Gurley, when he was on the Rams, would kind of set around the offense, and Goff did like everything else, or did enough to where he didn't throw the game. Hopefully they can get something going like that. Amon-Ra St. Brown was the only wide receiver, I believe, that had over 100 targets last year, which is good. It's nice. Good to see Jameson Williams as well. If he can come back healthy and go streaking across the field, that's definitely going to help them. But it all comes down to, like I said before, is Goff and his ability or inability to get these guys the ball. Hopefully that line does get better because they are going to need it, and hopefully those running backs can stay healthy, man.
Man, Dave, I am a little interested in Goff in Superflex and 2 QB leagues. I know on our chat, our Twitter message, you, me, and Doug Orth share. I always talk about my trades for Jared Goff. I got him for an early second and got a early fourth back. But I don't know. Am I wrong?
Short term, you could be right. And Goff's held on to the job longer than I thought. But I fully expect them to move on from Goff here soon. Whether they draft his replacement and move on next year, or they draft his replacement and move on some point in the season. The Lions are moving in the right direction, and they are setting up a nice, a nice environment for a rookie. And I just, Goff is not going to be the guy there. The Lions have the most expensive offense in the NFL, partly because Goff is still on that Rams salary, and the offensive line is heavily paid. The guy that I'm interested in is Jameson Williams, and I'm looking at his ECR going, if I'm a contending team and I can sit Jameson Williams on the bench or even my IR and wait, that's going to be amazing. Some of these guys go in the rookie draft and they just, go for immediate, impact. And I've seen Jameson Williams fall the 8th or the 9th in the rookie drafts. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm trading up and grabbing him. Jameson Williams is a stud. They got 98 speed on his Madden grade. He's going to be fun, and I just don't think Jared Goff's going to be the guy. Look, going back to air yards, back when he was with the Rams, Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp had the 35th and 36th air yards in the league, and it's like if both receivers have an air yards problem, it's a quarterback problem.
Yeah, he's not very good at multiple reads. He's not a good complicated offense guy.
Correct.
Give him 1 or 2 reads and don't make him turn around, because he'll never. He was terrible at play action. I remember that with the Rams. He would turn around to fake a handoff and then be like, "Whoa, what are all these guys doing out here now?" Yeah.
Would you rather have him or Carson Wentz as your QB2 in Superflex?
Goff.
No, I like that.
I think Wentz is an turd bucket. I don't really. Wow, I was
last year. No, yeah, last year was too much for me. No, for sure. That's kind of where I'm at as well. Just because I feel like Goff can finish the season out, whereas Wentz will just he'd crumble in a wet paper bag.
Rob Mongol chimed in the comments. He said that he loves Richie James.
Yeah,
Rob helped a lot putting together these slides, so thank you, Rob, for your help. And he should be appearing starting in August. He will come on the show. So looking forward to getting you on board, Rob. Now, again, of course, as always, we're a Dynasty show. Anybody in this depth chart tickle your fancy, Dave?
Quintez Cephas, he played well, and I wouldn't mind him going over to my Giants. I think Quintez Cephas is someone that they can move on from now that they have all these players. But he's played well when he's played, and he had an injury last year and then kind of went away. But the early part of the season, he was a waiver wire pickup, and you could play him in your lineup. He's good.
Yeah, I mean, he got a 71.7 grade from PFF last year. It's a solid grade. That was his rookie year, correct? Or was that his second year last year?
I believe it's his second year.
Okay. Josh Reynolds is another guy who I'm a little bit interested in. I mean, he's always flashed. Really depends on whether or not Jameson Williams is healthy to start the year. And the only other guy who I hear people talking about is Trinity Benson. Trinity Benson is a very good athletic wide receiver. I know he flashed a little bit, like the teensiest bit last year in a game, but I'd be interested to see what he can bring this year. See if he can put it all together. Mace, anybody stand out for you?
Just Josh Reynolds last year, looking at it out of people who had, he had 33 targets last year. He did have a 57.6 reception percentage, but his yards per reception were 16.1, and that led the team. So like you said, if Jameson Williams is out to start the year, you got to do something more like DFS probably, I guess, would say. Yeah. Josh Reynolds would definitely be a guy to ring up.
Yeah, or DFS best ball somewhere where you're not having to make that decision to put a Josh Reynolds in your lineup.
That would be tough.
Crying yourself to sleep at night. All right. Well, we got magic, good and bad, make you happy or make you real sad. Get everything you want, lose what you had down here in New Orleans. That's right. This season, the Saints may look different, but in reality, they are quite the same as last year. After shuffling through 5 QBs due to injuries and inefficient play, Sean Payton called it a career. Defensive coordinator Dennis Allen got the promotion and retained Pete Carmichael, who has been there as the offensive coordinator since 2009. I don't think I realized that. He is the longest tenured offensive coordinator in the NFL. Quite impressive. Dave, so after posting the most receptions and receiving yards over the first 4 years of any wide receiver's career ever, do we think that Michael Thomas returns to the field?
Before I answer that, 2 things. First, everybody recognize the fact that JJ has been on fire this episode. Just nailing the lyrics, nailing the pre-roll. I mean, everything's been awesome. And the slides are fantastic. Number 2, I think that point about Carmichael, I see a lot of analysts out there saying, well, last year this, last year that. Over half the league has a new head coach or offensive coordinator or both. So it's very difficult to say those things. So just be very careful. It's going to look different when someone else is playing the call, calling the plays. And when you have a new head coach, it's really hard to pull out the crystal ball and say, this is going to be exactly the same thing. So to that point, there is consistency here. So you are going to see a lot of the same things, but Sean Payton is gone. And even if Pete Carmichael was the offensive coordinator, Sean Payton was calling the plays. So it's not going to be exactly the same here as well. I love what they've done. And I think, when you look at what they did in the draft, what people do in the draft tells you a lot about how they feel about their team. And the Saints feel like they can win. Is that true? We'll find out. But they think they can win. You don't trade up and go get win now pieces. They needed a left tackle. They needed a receiver. They traded up. They got a left tackle. They got a receiver. So those two things, and they didn't go quarterback. They could have easily went quarterback there. Pickett was on the board, had their pick of any quarterback. So they believe in Winston. They got Andy Dalton as the backup. I think I forgot about that the other day. I thought it was Simeon. Simeon's in Chicago. Dalton's there, trading spaces. And Olave over Williams. I don't know if you saw the draft, but Detroit Lions social media has been awesome. And so they had a video about, the trade up, and then with the Saints pick, they were sweating bullets that the Saints were going to pick Jameson Williams. But they said they need someone that can play right now. I think our guy's going to be there. And then they took Chris Olave. So they're going to take, Olave is a great compliment to Jarvis Landry and Michael Thomas. He's a speedster. Thomas and Landry both do the intermediate stuff. And Jameis Winston has, he's produced fantasy points before. He's produced a lot of turnovers as well. But that doesn't hurt Thomas, Olave, and Landry. If all three of those guys are healthy, Jameis is a solid wide receiver, quarterback 2 in your Superflex.
Yeah, he would have to be, right, Mase?
Yeah, sorry, I was just looking right here, and I think you missed a wide receiver, Taysom Hill.
I think he's a tight end now, isn't he?
No, I don't know what he is, man. I just wanted to break the ice there. That's the epitome of what's going on. Like Dave was saying, Olave, that's very enticing, and also with the ability of Winston, of just that gunslinger, I don't care mentality. I'm going to put the game on my back and win it. That's how he's always been. It's kind of nice. So if you're in a league that's more forgiving in the interception column, most definitely that's a good shot, Dave. Jarvis Landry, he's kind of intriguing as well. If Michael Thomas does come back, who do you think out of those 3 guys would be in the slot? Do you think they would put the rookie there?
I think they put Thomas there. I think that's where he's most comfortable, and he's, obviously a little bit of a diva, a bit of a diva. But they would put Thomas there and let everyone else work around him. But they could also move people around and do some multiple formations.
No, for sure. So I was looking at the actual receptions or targets. Last year, Alvin Kamara had 65. He was second. The year before, Alvin Kamara was first. I think he was the only wide receiver or the only player with over 100 targets. So I don't really think that's why. I guess it is kind of going to change because he is going to be out for the first 6 games. I stand corrected. Sorry about that. But there is a lot to like. And like Dave was saying, Michael Thomas they call him slant boy for a reason. So, yeah, he's probably going to go in the slot and get the most points, which is reflected in the ADP. So if there's anything, me personally, I don't like rookie wide receivers too early, and I feel like that spot maybe for Olave is a little bit too early for me. I'd like to bolster up another spot in my position, like maybe a tight end, Dawson Knox, someone like that. So Jarvis Landry is definitely the most enticing of those major 3 for me.
Now, Dave, there are times when, everybody sort of just assumes quarterbacks get their stats and their points in fantasy the same way, but there are some major differences. Like some leagues are -2 for an interception. Some leagues are -1. Some leagues are 6-point passing touchdowns. Some are 4-point. Would that make a difference in how you value Jameis?
Yeah. So when, number one rule before you do any league, before you join any league, is check the scoring out. Because little differences can change things. A lot of it's still the same. But with your quarterbacks, if all touchdowns are worth 6 points, that kind of evens the playing field for your quarterbacks that don't rush as much. But when you get 4 points for a passing touchdown and 6 points for a rushing touchdown, that's a huge advantage. And then when you have -2 or -4 for interceptions, that's a huge difference. So guys like, Daniel Jones and Jameis Winston, they get penalized for being bad quarterbacks or having turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
But those 6 points will be a big difference. And someone like Jameis, if it's a 6-point scoring and -1 or -2 for an interception, it's much different than it's 4-point touchdowns.
All right. Well, Mase, as always, It's a dynasty pod. Let's look at that depth chart. We have Marquez Callaway, who I think led the team in targets last year. Traquan Smith, Kevin White, Kwan Baker, Kirk Merritt. Anybody there standing out that you might want to throw a chip on?
Yeah, in this situation, I think it's just a Band-Aid spot. I feel like I would go with what I know best, and that would be with Galloway and Traquan Smith, just because I know that they know the system. They kind of know what's going on. They don't really have to jump through a lot of hoops. I mean, it might be hard to get there, but if you're throwing them in your flex and they're actually going to play the field, then I think that would probably be your best bet.
Dave, are you looking at anybody? And don't be confused as I was. I thought Deontay Harris was on their team last year, right?
He is.
But Deontay Hardy's a whole different person.
No.
It is.
It is the same person.
It is not. Deontay Hardy is a different player.
So, well, Deontay Harris, that was on their team. If he's not on their team, he changed his last name to give reverence to his stepfather.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
And he also was, he had a PED suspension as well right before this. So kind of confuses things too. So he had a couple good games and then he got, he got suspended. So we don't know how he's going to play. Like he played, pretty well a couple of times. And it was like, okay, he was kind of DFS kind of a guy, but then he got suspended for PEDs, so I think 6 games maybe. And he's done with the suspension, but he did change his last name. So I do believe that is him. I can't confirm, but I'm pretty sure that's him. And I was going to mention that. And, with Michael Thomas, I took Michael Thomas and Scott Fish, so I'm more confident that he's going to play. I can't believe he got a better Madden rating than Jamar Chase. Yeah,
is that true?
Yeah, I'll share. There's a video.
Stinky.
Pretty funny parody video. I'll send you. Jamar Chase got he got crushed in Madden. He got lower than Thielen, Thomas, and a bunch of guys. Yeah.
Wow.
But at the end of the day, if Michael Thomas did not play, that shakes this whole thing up. And, Marquez Callaway and Traquan Smith would be very interesting. I throw Harris, Hardy out there. I don't think any of these other guys make the roster, including former top 10 pick Kevin White. No. I think that's your crew. Like I said, Deontay Hardy could be interesting because he's probably one of the only guys that's available because people don't even know his name. So he's probably available in your dynasty leagues because they don't know who he is. So, if you have, Julian Edelman or someone on your roster that is not even in the NFL anymore, you can cut, then go grab Deontay Hardy. Don't go and drop someone valuable for him. But that's about all I got.
All right. Raise your hand if you've ever had Kwan Baker and Kirk Merritt on the same roster. For the record, it's a pipeline league. So you have to auction colleges and then you get all of their players. So I didn't just randomly pick those two, but it was nice to see their names and know that they were on a roster of mine at one point. All night on the beach till the break of dawn. Bienvenidos a Miami. Welcome to Miami. Keep my QB's name out your mouth, Dave. Can Tua support more than one wide receiver one? Right now, we have both Tyreek Hill. Oh, I jumped ahead.
That's all right. I'm
gonna stick there.
So I'm gonna say no. So yearly, there usually is one team that does it. And so when you're looking around the league and you're going, which team could do it? The Bengals are obviously one of the top, if not the top. There's a couple others. This may be the second or third best tandem, as far as, 1 and 2 receivers in the league. But most of those really top tandems, they don't have a Joe Burrow. You have A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, pretty impressive. They got Jalen Hurts. Do you really expect them to, So, I'll just say this. I don't think he's going to be able to produce wide receiver ones, but I do like Mike McDaniel. I think this is going to be a good offense. And I see Tua very much doing the Jimmy Garoppolo kind of stuff. They're not going to ask him to throw the ball, downfield too much. They will do some play action. He will, do that when it's, when it's planned, it's not going to be as much, but with these guys, it's the perfect, kind of a, you're doing some slants, doing some timing routes, doing crossing routes. Next thing you know, that he throws 2 yards down the field and Tyreek Hill takes it 80.
Yeah, that's what we're all hoping for. Mase, I mean, after Tyreek and Jalen, I mean, they're going basically back to back. Is there any interest in Cedric Wilson? I mean, they signed him. They brought him over from Dallas for a reason.
Yeah, I'm looking at last year, and there are 2 guys that stick out to me, Albert Wilson and Mac Hollins. Wilson didn't have any touchdowns, but he had 37 targets. Mac Hollins had 28 targets and 4 touchdowns. So there is some bread to be eaten there, and I feel like with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill is going to be used like a Swiss Army knife, kind of like how I thought Curtis Samuel was going to be used in Washington before he got hurt, something kind of similar to that. Like you guys are saying, the screen roll is going underneath. That'll open it up for Waddle too, but you'll have those 2 guys going. So maybe Cedric Wilson does pick up some of the slack. They also have a boss of a tight end in Gesicki, and then I'm not sure if their backup tight end is still Smythe. Not really sure what they have going on there as well, but he last year
they drafted Hunter Long in the second.
Oh, that's right.
So they'll have Smythe and Long.
Well. That's right. Okay, for sure. So, I like Cedric Wilson, and especially with that ADP, but I'm not going to sit there and like tell you that he's going to have 7 touchdowns and you need to put him in your wide receiver too. No, you put him, you grab him at the end of your draft, and if you need a Band-Aid really fast, you put him there and then look to trade or do something else elsewhere.
All right, let's take a look at that depth chart. We have Lynn Bowden. Lynn Bowden was a jack of all trades, right, out of Kentucky. We have Preston Williams, who really did look good as a rookie, but then disappeared. River Craycraft, great name, but I always thought I always confuse him with River McCown, right? The guy from Football Outsiders. I confuse those 2. Anybody there stand out to you, Dave?
Preston Williams, because we've seen it a little bit. The other guys are, and Cody Core. Cody Core is a special teamer, and he might make the team because special teams, but he's not going to do much. And he was a pretty good special teamer for the Giants. Eric, Uzakana, he's a rookie, kind of a smaller slot guy from Texas Tech. But Lynn Bowden is interesting, and Lynn Bowden was a 3rd-round draft pick. He had some draft capital, but very interestingly was traded the offseason after being drafted, which you just don't see that often. But if there was anybody to try to do some running back funky stuff, you could see Lynn Bowden taking some snaps because he did it in college.
He was a QB too.
He was QB. This guy was slash. And, he's built more like a running back, kind of the same thing with Amari Rodgers. Short, stocky frame, does not look like a receiver when he's out there. He's someone that you could see, in that muddled backfield as well. And he's probably, in your deep leagues, he's probably sitting out there on somebody's cut list or already cut.
Now, I don't have all of their physical dimensions in front of me. Are any of these guys like a big-bodied wide receiver? Who's their big-bodied possession guy? Because Hill's a smaller guy. Waddle's not huge.
Gesicki?
Preston Williams? Like, are those the big body? No?
I'm gonna look it up. Preston Williams. Preston, you might be tall, but he's just like a string bean. He's not
okay.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering, like, who would be their possession guy down the stretch, and you have to get a first down. I guess they're just going to throw it to Gesicki. But
is Albert Wilson still on the roster?
Nope.
And he's still small.
All right. Well, gentlemen, we're going to Kansas City. Kansas City, here we come. There was a time when we all were certain that Pat Mahomes was going to be the QB1 forever. Draft him. He'll be your QB1 for the next 10 years. Now, Tyreek Hill has been traded, and outside of Travis Kelce, we don't know who is going to take over the wide receiver roles. Now, Mase, when we remove Travis Kelce from the equation, assuming he maintains his role as the number 1 pass target, the top 3 wide receivers over the past 5 years have averaged a combined 259 targets. The top 3 guys get about 80-some targets each. Who do we think the top 3 guys are going to be in this wide receiver room?
I mean, that's going to be tough, like you're saying. All right, so we're taking Kelsey out. You got to think Juju Smith has a little, I don't know, like pizzazz behind his name. You're going to expect to get something out of him. I may not be outstanding, as I don't feel he's a true wide receiver one. So you're going to put him in the slot and have him do different things. So I don't know, man. Sky Moore he looked amazing in college. I'm surprised he fell as far as he did. He's got to have to learn the offense and get with it, but he's a guy I feel like that could flourish. You see these ADPs between Hardman and Moore, and it's just whoever you want to throw a coin in the wishing well at. For me, it would either be Valdez Scantling in redraft or probably Hardman, just because he has that connection with Patrick Mahomes. So to start the season off, you'll probably feel a lot better about drafting Hardman than you would like a Sky Moore. So if someone else drafts a Sky Moore at the end, he doesn't get that time, they're going to cut him hopefully by week 3 to 5. And then maybe once you start to see, those rookie jitters get out week 6 to 9, maybe they start to give him a little bit more targets so you can hop back on the train and pick him up. That's just kind of what I would do there.
Yeah, Sky Moore is going really early in rookie drafts. Dave, who would your 3 guys be?
Yeah, same 3. I mean, it's the obvious. With the ADP, maybe I would flip MVS for Hardman just because you get so much of a discount there. Because I'm really not interested in that third piece. Because when it comes down to it, in most offenses, you're really looking for the guys that are the top 2 in targets. And especially in some of these great offenses, you can sometimes go to the third option. But even the Chiefs, I mean, it's been Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. There hasn't really been a consistent guy, and Sammy Watkins was the best, and that's not saying much. So if there's one other guy, or maybe this is the year they spread it out, I would put my money on Sky Moore versus Juju based on the ADP, and I would not waste much time on MVS or Hardman or any of these other guys.
Yeah, I would much rather throw a chip on those, like Moore, MVS, and Hardman, like 2 of those guys, than reaching for Juju. I mean, man, Juju's going early. I don't know about him.
Yeah, I had a guy in my DMs. He just kept offering me trades or trade. I'm like, I don't want Juju, and like he kept wanting like Juju for Renfro, and he was going to throw in something else, and I'm like, I just traded for Renfro. I like Renfro a lot better than Juju. Like, why would I? No, So finally, he left me alone because I was just not doing it.
I mean, Juju's still young. He's only 25. I mean, I think that's one of those things we keep saying with Juju every year, because he came into the league, I believe, as a 14-year-old, because he feels like he's been in the league forever. But he's still young. I don't know. Justin Ross, I was interested in a little bit, like a little tiny bit. But then he's in a walking boot. Right? There was a photo on Twitter of him in a walking boot, I think, a recent photo.
I missed that, but yeah, it's tough.
It's over, Johnny. It's over. All right. Well, we are a Dynasty show, so of course, let's take a look at that depth chart. There are some names on there who I actually really like. I love Justin Watson in Tampa. Tall guy out of Penn. Big body, great special teamer. Cornell Powell was a fast guy. Darius Fountain he was like a dynasty darling, like a deep, deep sleeper from the Colts. And of course, Josh Gordon. Any of these guys who you want to throw a chip on, Mase?
Draft Josh Gordon and keep the dream alive. Stay smoking. Nah, none of these guys really interest me. I mean, you said Watson, maybe Powell, I think, has got some time in there. But I mean, if I'm going for fantasy, no, I'm not. Sorry, bro.
Dave?
Yeah, even in the 50 touchdown year, like they're just, there barely was a second guy. It's just Travis Kelce, and we'll find out who that number 1 guy is. And maybe they do spread it out a little bit, but it's not going to go all the way down to Darius Fountain.
No, chances are, I mean, it's going to be Kelce, it's going to be 1 wide receiver, and then a running back is going to get. Last year it was Darrell Williams. We'll see who it is this year. Yeah. But like I said, I don't trust Juju. I'd rather take a shot on any of the next 3 over Juju Smith-Schuster. All right, guys. Anything else you want to say about Kansas City?
That's it.
Well, gentlemen, it is now time for tags where we let the riders know where they can find us and any final thoughts. First up, Mase.
Yeah, real quick, Trent Sherfield for Miami. I know he was buried at the bottom of that depth chart. He actually, probably because of Kyle Shanahan, but he beat out Ayuk for a spot last year. So that's just kind of something to look at. That was more so of Ayuk being put in check and some personal drama, I feel like, on the team. But he's a really aggressive run blocker, and he knows the offense. So he might be one of those guys that slips in there. His catch percentage is horrible, though. So, I mean, I'm just talking for NFL purposes. Anyways, name's Mase Riney. You can catch me on Twitter at CaliKing4917. I write for IDP, but I don't limit myself to that. Obviously, you showed up here. I appreciate you guys having me on. JJ and Dave, it's always a pleasure.
Dave.
Yeah, Mase, it was great to meet you for the first time. I know we've interacted on Twitter. Just to go back to Miami again, Preston Williams, 6'5", 218, and then Cedric Wilson, 6'2", 200. So those would be your kind of bigger guys in comparison to the other guys. You can find me at Dynasty Dorks. All my work right now is at Sports Gambling Podcast Network. So give us a follow. I have some great breakout. I got a mini series going on. So I got breakout articles going as well as breakout podcasts. We've had Michael F. Florio, Marcus Grant, some really great guests. I had Justin Henry on Monday. So it's been great. So check that out. SGPN Fantasy or Sports Gambling Podcast Network.
All right. Thank you to Mase for joining us tonight. Make sure you are following him on Twitter at CaliKing49er17 on Twitter to check out all of his latest content. He's a great follow, not just an IDP guy, as you can see based on tonight. Thank you to Dave, Justin, and Rob for helping put together the show. You can find me on Twitter at JJ Wenner. Be sure to check out Gridiron Ratings for all of our content. On Thursday, Getting Defensive will be with Gary and myself. Tune into the Chop Shop on Saturday with Ronnie and Jeff. And next week on the Rod Pod, we welcome Matt Donnelly of Dynasty Vipers to talk about QBs and some tight ends. So from all of us to all of you, be safe, be well, and as always, boat drinks, my friends, boat drinks.